Perfect. Welcome out to the Barker Park Committee meeting. For me, it seems like forever because I did miss last month. And so we'll get started with a invocation and pledge of allegiance by Councilman Severin. And then we'll move on to the agenda.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we so much appreciate the abundance that we enjoy in our lives. We're grateful to live in this beautiful, beautiful community. So beautiful, and we're grateful for it. We pray for many of the citizens. May they be strengthened in their health, those who may struggle in any way. And we pray that as we make decisions that would be a benefit to the citizens of the city, that we might have that guidance and direction. We give thanks for our abundance again, and we pray for this today in the name of Jesus Christ.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Councilman. So I did want to just mention that I know last month, I wanted to say this publicly. Last month, the meeting didn't go so well because I, as the chairman, did not probably pass on all of the proper information to Sarah and to the crew. And so I know that it went a little bit wonky last time, and there were technical issues and all kinds of things going on. So I did want to officially apologize for that. I think that moving forward, we shouldn't have too many times that we have those. The last thing I want is for someone to feel like they come to this meeting and it wasn't productive, and it was, because we're all busy and we don't want it to feel like it's a waste of time. So from now on, I hope we can feel a little bit better about that. So first agenda item, and this kind of has a little bit to do with a lot of the back and forth that we've had between the 501c3, which is the Build Barker Park 501c3 nonprofit, and we have our official city Barker Park Committee, which is us. And there's just a lot of misinformation or just lack of information that's flowing between the two groups, and not that anyone's doing anything bad. It's just communication probably could be tightened up a little bit. And so John was honestly the mastermind mostly behind this document that's in front of you guys. And it's because he wanted to help me line up some bullet items about, you know, what is the city council's role in all of this? What is the Barker Park Committee involved in? What is the Build Barker Park Committee, which is the 501c3 involved in, and then what will city staff do? Now, just because this is on paper, it doesn't mean that this is the end all. So if I explain something and you're like, you know, that just doesn't sit right, or what about this and that, we can definitely change things a little bit here and there.
Is this where you can cross out things that won't happen, period?
Scott, come on.
We're
working on it.
Right there.
You're actually jumping ahead.
That's basically because the city's gonna be buying my parents' house, so they're gonna get my parents' house, so that's also just brought up the top.
You've just jumped to agenda item number 3,
I know.
but we will cover
I just
what's,
thought those things will be taking place.
yeah, well, we're gonna cover a list of items just to make sure we're all on the same page, because a lot has changed since 2015 when this plan came out. And we just wanted to double check where everyone lands on what their thoughts and expectations are for the park. So first of all, the first thing that John helped me out with was this, what does the city council approve? What is the city council's part in all of this? Hey, Mayor,
Hey,
our distinguished guest, welcome.
I'm just a guest.
What's your name? What was your name again?
Peter.
So viral for all.
So the intention is that the city council is not really approving all of the teeny little bits and pieces of what's going to happen in Barker Park. We are approving the 30,000-foot view. And a good example of that would be, we had a couple of months ago, we had a city council meeting after we had one of these committee meetings where we decided, hey, this is the concept that we have for the chicken coop section of the park. Here's what it's going to look like. And I brought that to the council, which is right here, exactly. And I brought that back to the council and said, hey, council, this is kind of our 30,000-foot view. You know, this may not be 100% exactly what every little bit and piece is going to look like, but this is it. And I said, we have a plan of eventually installing a parking lot at the bottom, at the rear of the amphitheater. We plan on eventually having a trail that goes all the way around and helps people experience that chicken coop and fruit farm area. And the council said, sounds good. And there wasn't any pushback. There wasn't anyone that's saying, no, I don't think that's a good idea. So that's kind of the role in the council generally is that. And then just a side note is that the council has to be involved in anything that is major infrastructure too. So, for example, the chicken coop trail for now, it's my understanding that volunteers and everyone is going to be putting in the trail and carving it out, hopefully this summer, starting on that. But there isn't going to be any cement that's laid or anything like that at this point. And so that's an example of something that's kind of okay to move forward because there's not any and John, if I'm veering off, you just gotta, because I might not even understand it fully.
No, you're good. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, but if I say anything super sketchy, you gotta get me. So that's a good example of something that was kind of high level approved. Barker Park, 501c3, Bill Barker Park just goes for it and they clear out weeds. They do their cleanup days. They do everything involved with the work and the volunteering. And later on, if we decide, I think it's kind of more of a long-term plan that we would like to put a cement trail that goes through there because it will eventually be, much more accessible for ADA and all of that good stuff. We might, John, do you think we'll be able to get the trail?
You call it a path, we'll have to work out ADA.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's, the mayor actually brought something pretty good up about that, during our council meeting when we discussed it. We don't really want to, as possible, we don't want to skirt the rules to be able to not make it ADA.
No, it needs to be ADA.
So it is long-term, it is the plan that we are going to make it ADA right there. Of course, if you look at the bottom of the hollows, that's gonna be, that probably won't ever happen. We probably won't be able to do ADA trails throughout. But what we'll be able to do, and this is a concept from 2015, we might be able to do something like this where there's an actual cement bridge type of thing that goes all throughout. So somebody that doesn't have the ability to walk down in the hollows, they could park their wheelchair in the middle of it and kind of be immersed in it and experience it, even though they can't go down. So that's an idea. Let's see if I missed anything here. So council isn't specifically approving sidewalk locations, plant types and things like that. But the council is approving the programming of the park. Essentially, what are the main features?
Now, they need to be aware the city council is stuck following the conservation easement, just like we are, which does, you can tell a lot of that.
Tell me a little bit more about that conservation easement. Let's see where's well.
Everything on here meets with the easement, but there doesn't show on here something we had in it. Maybe it is in this building right here, 32, what's 32? It may be a storage building.
Like storage.
Yeah,
That building, the only building you're allowing on there for, lawn equipment.
okay,
And maybe have another building here for, water thing.
Well, the pump house, yeah.
Pump house, now it's that the only buildings out.
okay,
So except for the one for the barn here. Or you have a barn with that on. That's what you could do with the sagebrush academy, put it in here.
yeah. And that's something that you still had a pretty big vision for, was that sagebrush academy, right?
Yeah, that'd be a big deal, it could use a lot of different things.
Well, my vision is the sagebrush academy, sheep, blacksmiths, and then hopefully there's another new building We're following up on this, yeah, I think.
I don't know what it is.
Huh?
Too bad you can't get the St. Clair at that gas station back.
There we go, yeah. we got that.
Granny's got the stop this.
Oh, that's not.
Put it back.
Oh, now the old post office.
That's the old post office.
Then we actually put the chicken in the end and. all
I know
that.
full tables and things.
It'd take a lot to get back to that. That'd be cool.
They wouldn't have this.
So that's kind of where we're at. And then the other thing just to mention is we do have some engineering efforts that are underway for the Chicken Coop Trail. And John might be able to help me remember where we're at on that, but basically we were going to see with Eric Casperson if he has the ability or bandwidth to help with some of this stuff.
Question,
yeah.
that chicken on that trailhead to talk about cement. I've heard several different stories about the old coops along there and going to go see them clean up the old cement and pull the dirt, everything away from it. I don't know if that's something they're thinking about. I guess I don't know if you get the dirt off all that chicken coop cement, what condition it's in after over 100 years of being used. I mean, all the ammonia from the chickens and stuff, we don't have no idea if it's rotted,
Yeah, that's good, that's a good point.
but if it's not, it'd be usable.
Where, John, where are we at on that, kind of engineering
So the survey is completed,
surveys?
Seeing
Um, and in a large part because of the donation from the 501c3. They picked up essentially half the tab. And the rest, because we did the whole park instead of just chicken coop, is, the city's covering. But it's the idea, or we've got our elevation, so now we know what we need to know to design ADA compliance and things like that. And then eventually, you can see it on the map in front of you, and I'm gonna put it up on the screen just so that folks online can see what we're talking about.
You
Um,
got a pointer,
I have my little,
so we just talked about different places.
You want the pointer, John, or have you got one?
I don't have the pointer, but I've got my little mouse, but eventually the connection will probably move up the hill in this area. Cause that's where it's flattest.
Right,
And so, but those are the kind of details that I think are gonna be, back to this list that JD's going through. Will be left up to the staff, cause it kind of falls under these parking lot designs and some of these things that are the rules say we have to do it this way, and so that'll come in as the site plans are approved and the engineers go through the documents.
which brings me a question, John. The parking on this map, back when it was presented to the city council in 2015 was okay. On the type of parking lots going to be approved now, has that changed?
So there's the option for it to change in the
Right.
sense that really it comes down to the site plan approval at the planning commission to make sure that it's the right widths and drive aisles and things like that. Yeah.
Parking spots, yeah, I understand, because originally all this was approved, well, what everybody agreed to, but somehow the city council didn't go about approving it.
Well, they just didn't revisit it. They saw it and said they'd talk about it again and it never came back.
So that's,
Yeah.
normal. Yeah, nothing new there.
Hey, easy.
I've on the planning commission for 10 years, I know, and also I dealt with this for 22 years. I've been told to keep my mouth shut by 5 people. Literally. I've been treated pretty poorly by some people.
That's one.
I'm just playing with you, by the
But
way.
anyway, I was just worried about that, because I know Grant Park wanted to park along Parker Park, which can't be allowed.
Yeah, everything needs to meet city ordinances. And staff, it would not recommend to change the ordinance that would accommodate other things at this point.
Okay,
So, and
he talks.
well, and I
Dan does have some good ideas. I have the relation, has some really neat ideas.
And I think that's kind of the point of this document is to kind of just help everyone say, okay, look, here's the different sandboxes we're playing in. And then hopefully eliminate some confusion, because really the focus of this group, which is the first two, right, is for this group to come up with a new plan that blends the plan that the 501c3 has brought into the older plans, the Grassley plan, this plan, and we can go to the council and say, here's a full plan for the park.
That's good, cause I see things on here, it's just cost wise, just like be eliminated.
Yeah, that's gonna be,
Break it up.
yep, that's gonna be part of our conversation. I can point out 2 or 3 things that are almost immediately probably a no-go for a cost perspective.
But also I can see parts on here that did come from Grassley's when we did it.
Yeah.
Part of it did.
So we're probably getting off that.
Yeah, no, we're fine. So yeah, moving on with the next part of the, thanks, Councilman. Next part of the charter is, okay, so what does this committee specifically do? So we're gonna be mostly involved in the programming of like where the pathways are going to be located and general locations of items. So if you look at this map, where is everything, you know, because it might not end up being exactly like this. Maybe we have some tweaks that we go through and we propose back to the council, but this is probably pretty dang close to what we want. Who knows?
Now, that's another question. I know working with Blake and Grant, there's some things that they moved. I didn't have a problem moving it because it kept the historical factors to it. And that's stuff that can be done even after the city council approves it, those things need to be moved. Like down here, when we did all the historical stuff. And they're putting it up here.
Yeah, so that is my understanding is that island, what a lot of people refer to as the island, this section that's on the east.
That was always been followed.
Yeah, well, some people, a lot of people. That is heavily focused on all the historical pieces. And if you're saying that back in 2015, a lot of that was more focused on the west side, that's fine. We just need to come to an agreement. I think that overall, everyone, based off of the way that conversations were going in the last few meetings, I felt like, nobody from the committee was opposed to putting a lot of the more historical, like it could be either pioneer or indigenous peoples or whatever on this side. And then there's gonna be like the learning area and the grassy area and all that stuff. So as long as people aren't opposed to that majorly from the beginning, that is the idea that we're going to propose that in that section to the next rendition at city council.
Okay, now that, I didn't have any problem doing that, but we have a reason we put it here.
Because it's where it actually happened, right?
That's where the Indians encamped. They did not camp up here.
Mhm.
They have nothing camping up here.
Yeah, and I'm trying to
We never
remember,
found anything, any artifacts up here. All the rocks that they used for grinding stones, all the arrowheads and my ancestors allowed them to camp down here. That's why we did
And-
that.
I can't remember if anyone or John remembers what, I know it was Grant was a big part of the reason for putting it in the island. I think he had a lot of vision for that, but does anyone remember?
This was actually. John, that was the barn here on this side?
Right here.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you thought that-
Right, so that's why we kind of kept it there.
Well, and I think you're talking about two different components. There's the Indian encampment
Right.
is what it's called on the plan,
On this side.
which is on the west side. And then the concept that was coming from the 501c3 was doing some playgrounds that are themed around pioneers and indigenous people and so I'm not sure, but this is exactly the type of thing the group should talk about is, hey, where do we want the encampment? If we're gonna do one, do we want it on the island? Do we want to save it for the west end of the park? And it falls right in line with, you know, what Councilman Delpez is going through, which is that's the stuff the group should be focusing on so that when you present something to the council, we can get the thumbs up and then the staff and the Build Barker Parker committee can implement the plan of the other two groups.
So last, Peggy's working closely with the Shoshone,
Right, she is. She's going, we had monument stuff for them.
right?
The whole thing was going to invite them to come.
So, like, for example, Grant was really excited about putting up all these teepees. And who was it? The guy who was kind of like the leader of the Shoshone. He told Peggy, well, we didn't usually ever use teepees. So I think this area down here is a little bit still up in the air as to what
Right.
indigenous people what that area is gonna look like in representation of.
Well, it's going to combine indigenous people, a lot of the early settlers together, so it's kind of, they intermix a lot.
And therefore, that's why these probably two parts of the park are gonna be pretty similar.
Correct. Correct, you're right. You know, I don't know if you wanna go through, or you just take things out that just will not happen because they're expensive.
Yeah,
Well,
and-
we like this right here.
We're gonna
I
get
don't
there.
see why that, I don't see why that's needed there. Cause we have a bridge down here anyway.
Yeah, we're gonna get there, I promise.
Okay.
We'll, yeah, we're gonna really start to hone in on those items in the next item. So, the next thing that the Barker Park Committee, us, is going to be majorly involved in is the theme of things. So we've talked about that, which is, you know, pioneer themed playgrounds or indigenous peoples themed playgrounds and things like that. And Peggy's connection with the Shoshone, tribe will be especially helpful because we want to make sure that it's both historically accurate and sensitive. We don't want to do something dumb that is not honoring their heritage and isn't aligning with what they would like to see. And then, so the other thing is the design of major components like historical buildings, recreation, parking lot locations, et cetera. So that would be kind of like what you were starting to allude to is this parking lot going to be the way that it is still? Well, we don't know for sure yet, but most likely we're gonna take a lot of components from the 2015 plan and other plans. So that's what we're gonna talk about sometimes. And then just general guiding landscaping principles. John, actually, I'll just ask you. Do you know what that means? What's your intention on that bullet?
So as you know, in Utah, there's a big shift away from lawn everywhere. And so I think it'd be good for this group to talk about what's a good theme that's usable, but sustainable water-wise. And so that will likely include, hey, we're gonna have this area, and I think that 501c3 even talked about this, hey, this area might be buffalo grass, which is a low water need, you don't groom it, things like that. We need to chop it down once a year, but it grows tall and stops. And they also had hey, but we have this programmable space nearby for the kids to run around and play Frisbee. And so those are the type of things that this group can really weigh in on is how do we balance usefulness with sensitivity to water and things like that.
Have to be wood frisbees to be more.
And they're.
have to be-
Or metal
They
frisbees.
don't fly well. Oh,
Cowpies.
talking about actual cowpie, yeah.
Some of those cowpie frisbees.
Yeah, there you go.
So I can play with that.
Get the dogs out there catching that.
Thanks for the reminder on that, John. You're right. That's, I think back just in 2015, I guarantee you it was everyone's impression that we were going to do a lot more grass all in this, like in the entire area, but things have evolved so much since then. Even though we're technically starting to get out of a drought right now, a drought could be right around the corner, you know, in a couple of years
We
again.
have droughts all the time. It's just like we're drier we are now when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was far drier than this for a couple of years. This didn't even touch it.
I don't think they had one.
Well, Scott, the Lord hadn't invented rain back then.
Yeah.
No, he's still using bullets. I don't know.
I mean, that's a long time
So
ago.
big on Powder Mountain, didn't go for hardly 1 year.
So, the Barker Park 501c3 is going to be mostly involved in, well, we already know this, but they're involved in all the little details and all the community service work. So they're gonna work directly with city staff on approving each item to make sure it is the same as other parks. For example, like sprinkler components and plumbing and bathrooms, those are the types of things that we can't have going far off from what we have in the other parks because we have staff that's trained on a specific way of doing things. And if we do something that's way far off, it's gonna be complicated for everyone. So that's one piece. The committee 501c3 is going to work with staff on the specific playground components. So what the actual playground components are going to be looking like. So when we identify or they identify the type of playgrounds that are going to be installed, they're gonna work with staff to make sure that it's doable. If it's something that's the staff is not comfortable with in their experience, then we're gonna have to have a conversation or a negotiation on it. And then last but not least, they are going to work on the final detailed landscaping implementation. And so we already see that in progress in the sense that they continue yearly. Every summer, they're going out and they're cleaning up and they're digging out weeds and they're trying to improve the area and especially trying to get all the invasive weeds that keep coming in. But that's what they're gonna be mostly involved in. And then city staff is going to be super involved in the parking lot design, so we can say, hey, this is what we want. But they're kind of, and planning commission as well is gonna come back and say, well, there's actually a reason we don't wanna do it this way or that way, and we'll have to receive that input. City is going to approve utility plans, landscaping and irrigation. They are going to approve playground vendors and design. And then the city will provide meaningful feedback on the right way to do the parks. Any questions so far?
That last bullet point, where you said the right way, are you saying budget wise or vision wise?
The mechanics, meaning, so a good example is at one point, and I don't think it was anyone on the 501c3 or anybody like that, but the thought was, oh, we just need to round up all the field, get rid of all the stuff and then plant grass. And there's a lot of drainage and topsoil and things that just need to be prepped so that whatever we plant will survive. And so it's those kind of mechanical, like, how do we make the park not a maintenance nightmare?
Okay.
And so, and it's what most people would expect. It's just using their professional experience on turf maintenance to help us have a park that will stay beautiful.
Go ahead.
Next point is, where in any of these things comes into the actual like committing to do these things by the council. So like we can make all these things of what we want. But if no one actually says, yes, we will budget for it in the next 5 years or something, like it'll still be here in 5 years. So like at what point do we either recommend these things? Or does the council commit to doing it?
So I'll tell you my recommendation, at least the way I've been envisioning it. We know that the chicken coop's coming up. Most of that's gonna be able to be done for free with volunteer work and labor. So that's not really an issue right now. The next part that's actually going to incorporate money from the city is definitely going to be the island section. There's no way that we'll be able to get that done without money put forward. A good example is we've got a decent sized parking lot that we're going to need on that island section, which will provide parking for people to enjoy the park. So that's gonna be probably a budget of $200,000 or $300,000, or with how the prices are going, maybe 400,000, I don't know. So I was envisioning that we take a plan to the city council probably within the next year, at least. Within the next year, we'd like to have a really good idea of what the island looks like. All the specific recommendations that we'd like to make. And then I would ask the committee to come to a city council meeting and help me make a presentation to say, here's what we want to do. And we'll say, here's an estimate. We think this is going to cost, let's just say the island's going to cost $1 million total from city funds. Well, you can't just scrape that out in a year. Like you can't add that to our budget and expect that to go well. So we're gonna have to say, okay, in 2027, we're gonna do the parking lot, and that's gonna cost $300,000. And then in 2028, we're gonna do the alcove area, which will cost money to do the excavation and the landscaping and everything. And so it will be this very phased approach to make it manageable for the city and well, it's mostly money. It's to make it manageable on the money.
Now, the way you talk about that brings to mind, when we set this, so we have 4 phases set to it. We have set in 4 phases. We did it in such a way that we could do each phase, it's still a lot lighter to still be able to farm. If we did one phase, you could still farm the other parts and gradually move through it.
Mhm.
So like you mentioned, I may put a parking lot in. When you do that, you may just eliminate that whole thing from the farmers, all just gonna go to weeds. Well, we had a different part like this part right here, you could almost do, you leave everything open for the continuing farming
Mhm.
type of attitude about it. That way you're not having to place final part Well, you're trying to get these spaces down for the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, that's a good thought. I don't know the solution. Cause I don't know if we put a parking lot in there as one of the first items, how badly that impacts, the farming aspect. I don't know.
Lot's gonna have quite an impact, because the island's it's not big, it's not that big. And you have all this sprinkler stuff that has been done, you're gonna have to remove every sprinkler system to do it.
Mhm.
Or you just like, no, I'm not paying to move my sprinkler system around, because it's not worth my money or time, so it just sits.
Yeah.
See, these are things I don't have answers to myself, just we've set the 4 phases up, we try to set up. He could continue farming the rest of it out in the interference, we'll move on, then we move on to the next phase.
Yeah.
How we set it up.
I think that's a good point. I know we brought it up 2 meetings ago, that Rod brought it up. Does he want to farm and is that viable? We talked about going to Lyman and seeing if he wants to, or what's the long-term plan. Was there any, movement on that?
So the little movement that we've had in discussion of what the Barker family would need to continue to farm, a good example of what John's been working with, Brian and Max on is, we talked about, Grant was talking about, well, we're probably gonna have to do this. We're gonna have to put basically a hump here because we're gonna have irrigation that's gonna have to go under here and electricity and things. And it didn't seem with, like, Max was thinking that's not gonna be doable, like, his trailer's gonna be completely skewampus if he has to go over a big hump right there. And so one of our ideas that we're approaching Max with, and John, I'm probably talking ahead of things, but.
No, you're
we're
good.
gonna Talk to him about this is, how about doing a cutout on 2600 that's big enough to get your machinery here? And it's not like the city's wasting money on that, because this truly is someday going to be the entrance to the parking lot.
I think they've already cut out there,
Okay, I didn't
I
even,
think there is,
I-
pretty much,
Well, so, but that's the thing is we're talking through that process of,
right,
can we make compatible improvements so the farming can continue, even though there'll now be visitors up there?
right,
You know, and another good example is if we're gonna bring a lot of people there, we might also want to be including some temporary fencing or some field fencing so that people know, hey, you're not invited out into the alfalfa. Like, you need to stay here.
once you put the parking in, people are gonna do that, that's just what people do,
Yeah.
I don't blame them, I do the same thing, oh wow, look what we can go do out here. I'm gonna run all
Yeah.
over the place out
Sarah,
there.
in, regards to your question, how can this happen and how will this ever get done? We kind of had a plan in place till inflation kind of hit us to move forward, but just my opinion. The only way this is gonna get done is the city's gonna have to bond for it. And the council's gonna have to have a substantial increase in property taxes. So whenever they're prepared to do that, now, we've already kind of committed our sales tax, so frankly, it'd probably have to be a general obligation bond, which means it would have to go to a vote. And, it's been very difficult to get citizens to vote for a tax increase. But I think if they saw a plan here and they could see that this would be the crown jewel kind of park in our city, we might have a chance. But to me, the only way this is going to really progress substantially is in that manner. I mean, we can do some things, we're trying to put money away, inflation's just kind of taken some of the air out of our plans, but to me, that's ultimately really what's gonna have to happen.
and something that happens, I've been on the council for couple of years now. And something that happens every budget cycle is we start the budget cycle thinking, oh, things are gonna be pretty good this year. And then we start digging in and we're like, oh crap, this is not as nearly as good as we thought it was because inflation's hitting us, or there's this, we are trying to compete for workers, so we have to raise employees' wages by X percentage. There's all these things. And so truly my worry about, okay, we do a parking lot at a time, we do a feature at a time, is even those might be difficult to get funding for in a budgeting process that's so ever shrinking. So
So that's why
well taken, Mayor.
I wasn't quite sure when you take the historical part to it, how many grants are available for the historical part of it? I tried to Google before, I didn't get very far, because that's not my expertise.
So we had, remember the individual that came to our meeting two months ago? His last name was Johnson and his wife is a Barker. I can't remember her
I
name.
can't remember who it is.
So he showed up and he was in the audience and he said he has all kinds of experience with getting grants for these types of things. So we probably need to tap back into him to see if he has any advice for us. He sounded very experienced, so.
And he might be there tomorrow.
Just a
He was there
reminder,
last week. or last-
you know, if the citizens wrote ramp in. I mean, for some reason, when I became mayor, people said, oh, we can't go after big grants, we can't. We just got a $750,000 grant for the park down in Patriot Point. So, you know, a couple of years, we shouldn't throw out the fact that we can get ramp money. But it always entails a match, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But. You know, I think the first thing we've got to do is get the plan in a phased, because I think it's gonna be very difficult to do it all at once.
Correct.
That's why I've kind of suggested maybe we look at the phase approach that Councilmember Barker's talking about. Cause then it's easier to swallow, right?
Right.
Well, then maybe we should just actually take this, I don't want to cut it in half and call it phase one and phase two.
That's possible too.
And one thing, going back to the Word document, one of the reasons that the 501c3 has, I want to say, a lot of power or a lot of control over some of the theming and the design. You know, it says like work with staff on specific playground components. They have a commitment to go out and raise money. And so if they're finding donors that are gonna buy this, I mean, playground's 150,000, I mean, Sarah knows, $150,000 buys you a basic playground at this point.
It's pretty basic.
And so if they find the donors, then it makes sense for them to have a substantial say in what should it look like. Even though there is the staff able to say, well, wait a second, we're not doing a 80-foot tall cone structure. As cool as it would be, it doesn't work here, or, you know, things like that. So
Well, also they gotta sell the donors on what they're putting the money into, so you gotta have something you're going to
Yeah.
do with your money.
and some other cities down in Salt Lake, and Sarah knows more about this, but some cities have found significant donors to like pay for a whole park. Because it's themed and they throw their name on it, and then the community comes out and assembles it, and there's been some fun volunteer and sponsored parks that have come out in Utah. Just none here so far.
Each Sam Barker.
Yeah.
How many Sam Barker put in the parks? I don't know where he got his money.
And the mayor had a really good point is, you know, this island section. Parking lot might cost $250,000 or $300,000 and the recreational components of it, the easy part about a ramp application for this project. Is one of the main things that they look for is it a net new part or addition to your community? If it's a net new thing, a net new part. Your application is going to be much more impressive on paper to them. And so, you know, we could say, okay, the city is going to match. City's gonna pay $250,000 and this is $1 million project. And they give us $750,000. So that's definitely a very great possibility if we come up with the plan.
So maybe I just focus on the island. Let's see, we can do that, perhaps.
Might be the only.
Absolutely.
We've got a DNR grant that we can put in.
Yes, I do not very,
I've been looking for grants. We got the DNR grant we can look at. I think I haven't had a chance to talk to Peggy about this, but if we're gonna highlight, at least focus with Peggy's association with the Shoshone, should be able to get a grant. I would imagine they would have access to some kind of a grant.
yeah, they feel like it's something they like.
Okay, any other questions about kind of the level setting and expectations and,
I think that was helpful.
okay, yeah,
I think maybe, well, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, let's right now say, this is phase one and phase two. Phase one is,
Might not be a bad idea.
I think that's what.
Well, we already, well, I would say chicken coop, if you're talking
Yeah,
phase,
so I
this is
always
phase
look at
one,
this as chicken.
yeah. This is phase one.
Yep.
You know, maybe this ends up being phase two.
Maybe it's even phase
The
three.
problem is if we divide this in half by a phase, can he get his equipment through here and farm half of this?
Still, yeah, we still got here.
Okay, so we could maybe say this is phase two, this is phase 3, 4, 5, you know, however many phases we decide. Okay, so, I forgot to cover it, so I'll just cover it before we get too far. We need to, discuss or approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting on April 24th. I don't know if anyone had a chance to check them out.
Thank you.
I did,
Okay, do you have any questions or revisions?
did not, have any issues with it.
Okay, then, can we get a motion from someone to approve the minutes?
You read them.
So what do I say?
You'd say, I need to be approved.
Oh, I move the commission, I approve. I,
And we did.
I move that we approve the minutes from April 24th, 2024.
And a second,
Yeah.
perfect, and a second from Scott. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. Okay, next on the docket is agenda item number 3. Which is reviewing components of the Barker Park. Now, I will say, a lot of these components that we're going to talk about. I know that we want to focus on the island kind of first, but we are going to go through a lot of the components here real quick, just to see if we can strike some off the list immediately, because
Do you have any sticky notes?
John probably does, I bet.
I don't want to pick the magic monster with
Yeah.
or mine.
Yeah,
I can,
so,
I can tell you one thing that that it does not go with the Parks Department.
okay, go ahead and tell us what you're
So
thinking.
number 32, I'm sorry, it is,
32 is this one.
number 32. 19 is not
Sandball.
sand volleyball. 5 years ago, I think that they decided that they want to get rid of all sand from all parks.
Okay, so that was
So,
all.
so they're not putting any new ones and they're taking out,
What-
yeah.
It's
So-
a health code thing, basically.
Yeah, so that they're getting rid of them because of, like feral animals, deer, stuff like that, and it's just like a health hazard, essentially,
Okay.
so. And no one plays sand volleyball, ever.
Well,
Hey,
There's have it going. I've seen
There's
football.
groups that go to this one in North Ogden,
Yeah.
but
Another one somewhere else.
you don't wanna announce that too much, cause if you announce that it's a big kitty litter box, maybe they won't keep coming.
That's true. But I have heard that they're trying to phase out all sand in all.
Well, then that makes that one an easy one. That's gonna be one that we'll probably strike off and,
It's a health hazard if you go.
and hey, we have budget restrictions, so it makes it easier anyways. So I'm sure John's working on some, but, so Number-
Side, not call.
So parking lot number 1, good. Playground number 2, were we still planning on a playground in the island section? I believe we were, right? Okay, so we know that that's a clear go. Bowery number 3, which is, right, well, they're just several little
Yeah,
Boweries.
they're small ones. Kind of like the one that's sitting over by the amphitheater.
Mhm. On the plan from the committee or from the 501c3, did we have these little small Bowery sections? I can't remember on the,
she was kind of,
Ariel.
I'm trying to remember too, Emma was kind of.
okay.
So,
So just because it's not on there, doesn't mean that it's not part of the plan. So unless we have some really strong feelings like we need to strike that or reassess it, then we're good.
I think from the 2015 plan, they made good points that they put the reason behind the small ones. Is because if you're going to rent out, it was more feasible to rent out something that held 1 family or 2 families. Rather than renting out something that held 25 families. So, and so it was a conscious effort, to get small groups of people in there. Where they could like put 1 picnic table on there. And to encourage small groups instead of big groups.
You don't have quite a few down there. You don't need that many. Real gosh, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a lot.
Like
And that's a
25.
lot. That's a lot.
And I think that number 3 is all over the park. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
component,
They're all over.
and so conceptually, whether they land here or not, as opposed to do they belong in the park, is maybe the topic to talk about.
Instead of having this many over here, just cut it down to maybe 3 or 4 of them.
Well, the expense too is because every one of those valleys is gonna need lighting, and it's gonna need water
Right,
and company.
right.
So that makes a really added expense.
So it seems like we already kind of covered that the Indian encampment is a desire for sure.
Mhm.
So we'll keep that one there. Number 5, in the original one, this amphitheater with seating was more kind of a little bit more of a grand plan.
It
But
was.
if you look at Grant Protzman and Crew's latest and greatest rendition, it's more of a, you basically just do some carve out with machinery and put in rocks, and it's just a terraced area, nothing as intense as that.
And that was, so the Grassley plan had 2 amphitheaters, the big one that was the bowl that was constructed,
Mhm.
and then a little, essentially learning one, like I
Yeah.
think is being talked about, yeah.
That's why I think this is too grand for what we put in it. I think Grant's far much, pretty much.
Yeah, I really do like, I wish I had it in front of me, but I do like Grant's rendition on the latest and greatest.
Like this one?
Yes, that one, because it makes it look a lot less overwhelming. Because this, you look at it, you're like, oh, well, that's like our amphitheater 2.0 over there,
And this is the one that we put together originally with Emily.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yep,
You see that the amphitheater, I don't know if it'll get used a whole lot. That's why this thing like we had it is overblown.
for sure.
Or
Yeah.
maybe like you guys have smaller, more usable.
Well, I think it was your mom, or was it your mom and dad who wanted to have just like a little learning center, kind of a learn about?
Actually, originally, I can't remember if Harrop did it, was it, this thing is gonna be the amphitheater. Like, like built over there, the monstrosities built that, we put it over here, the amphitheater.
Oh, I see. So that
Yeah,
is,
because
This one?
that amphitheater, there was never supposed to be. Right, like bars, we have very hard to have a room fit in their grade about right now. But that's where that amphitheater there would have been here, and it'd been an open air amphitheater. Without there been a stage type thing.
Well, the Grassley plan included the bowl,
They
the
did,
size it is. And there was an open air stage there in the,
for this right here is open air and it's small, it's more. You just have to carve it out.
Yeah, I remember Peggy saying they were probably thinking about, a place to be able to sit in a classroom with kids.
And that would be more usable, couldn't cost a whole lot to do it.
No,
You may want to, so you could run power down to, so they'll put a screen up to run a projector off of the screen, be about it.
Mhm.
and we better even get all the nature center that she can have actually make presentations.
Right.
Oh, that would be cool.
Even the college, but
I think we all agree with the scaled down version of that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
6 is a non-negotiable park lighting. There will have to be lighting, obviously, sporadically throughout the place. 7, concrete walking path. Let's see. So that's referring to like this path that we're talking about that goes through the island.
this is a bridge.
And it's like a concrete bridge across.
Yeah, so this
So-
one is the one that goes all the way
Yeah.
around each.
But then, so that Tiffany, if you don't stay and put that in, she will write that, that's what she has to do too.
The 501c3 actually just bought a railroad trestle. We're bringing in for that.
Are you serious?
No.
It's like, what?
I just want to see you guys
That-
say.
Well, that was my reaction. I was
I had to throw a little.
like, I'm trying to have a vision for this right now.
No. But we
I'm
can
pretty
deal with
gullible.
that.
You just got me.
Times.
Um,
I don't think it'll be concrete, I think it'll be more like a wood structure.
I thought it was
What do
originally-
you-
What do you all think of the concrete going all the way through each?
This division, this would be like is it 6 feet or 8 feet?
Are we talking concrete or asphalt?
I think it's asphalt,
it,
because we visited this so they could keep it plowed in the winter time. So people could use it for exercising, walking, running, bicycles, all that would be open, large enough to do that.
So if we were doing that large, I mean, most plows are 8 feet.
And
And we get larger, but we need something wide enough that we didn't hit every sprinkler head as we went by. If there's sprinkler heads there, or just tear up the landscaping.
it's just something that's why we did what we did, so we could use the people who walk the bicycle. And we had station laundry set up little exercise things.
And there's more grants available too, if we actually incorporate some consistent. Like exercise, you know, you can stop and do, you know, tricep or whatever, we can actually go for different grants.
They had
Oh.
that at Weaver State, the trail that used to Weaver State, they have those things, really kind of neat.
There was a cool, I'm getting a little off topic, but there was a cool grant available through the Christopher Reeves Foundation, that if you incorporate ADA components into a playground, you can get however many thousands of dollars. And we put in an application a couple of years ago for the park here on 1050 at Wadman.
Mhm.
And it wasn't approved, but there's those type of grants that we can keep putting in, as if we put a big focus on that and they see how cool it is, then we get several $1,000s
Well,
potentially there.
And the parks, it's right there by the river. You know, we can talk, find out. show that grants.
Yeah. So I think we're overall, I mean, that seems pretty standard, having some sort of walking path throughout, that's totally fine. Number 8, Rossville, where's that?
But what is thinking that top still, what is supposed to be in school?
I know, I'm wondering, that's why. I've never even heard of that.
I don't know how that got up, it was supposed to be sports.
Anybody see,
I don't,
like Waldo?
I don't see any.
I'm not seeing-
Whatever.
Do you remember anything about a Crossville, John?
I don't see anything.
It was on, it's actually on, I think it's on one of the earlier plans and didn't get taken off this list, but
Okay,
as a more organized sport, it's been removed from the plan.
Okay.
so we just wanted to cause a little bit of anxiety there by mentioning it.
If we're talking about this down here is similar to this right here, go across, that right there. I don't think it's needed because they have the bridge that you guys get that goes down in here, go across. But that wouldn't need to be there because I already have a bridge that goes through.
It
here.
might,
But-
yeah,
So that could be done away with.
And we can talk about that when we get to number 16 and 17. The hard thing would be ADA access, because if you go, people can't go down and across that bridge, so there might need to be a suspended
Okay.
bridge for ADA purposes.
okay, so here are some. We have some reasoning I'll explain on 9 and 18 that we might want to consider just getting rid of it. So we have the High Adventure Playground, which is this part right here.
Mhm.
And then we have an actual ropes course, which is listed as 18 here in the corner.
Here.
I think someone had a really cool and fun vision with that, but when I was talking to John and I think Blake, you were there in a meeting with us, when we were talking about that, we just had a giant budget concern, like if we had an actual ropes course, we would have to have a staff member there. Anytime that it was actually open, you would have to be sitting there, they'd have to be buckling people in, it would be intense.
Right,
So I was going to encourage that we just officially, probably shoot those items down for that reason. Any thoughts or questions? And if you have an opposing view, it's totally okay.
So one thing that the High Adventure Playground was meant to be more of a self-play,
right.
so it could probably come in.
Did you see the?
Oh, my bad. I'm lumping the two in
It's,
together.
yeah,
Okay.
just the ropes course was meant to be like telephone poles 30 feet in the air, which would require safety equipment and employees and
Get rid of that.
may be hard to do. But if you do eliminate it, then what should we put in? And that's maybe not an answer today, but what sort of component should replace it?
You may not replace it with anything when it comes down to that, if it's something like that. The High Adventure Park would just be real good, just replace it.
Well, and Sarah has found some really cool playgrounds. And I think that's kind of the envision of this, the High Adventure. Maybe it'd be good to have her show some of those thoughts.
Yeah.
The,
it would.
is it Copan or remember the big, like the rope, like chute that you climb up and you climb those kind of fun things, they're expensive though.
Yeah, and you can, so I think he's just, so there's a shift in playgrounds going from plastic to natural materials. So there's a lot more, there's like a company called Compan, which is Kompan.
Sounds.
Yeah, just like it sounds. It's German. And it's like you essentially get rid of the plastic. And instead put in wood and stuff, which, I mean, does do the vision. And I think I don't know exactly where you're going with that, other than it's a good option for something like this.
We do go away from the plastics, because we break down and end up with the soil and imagine our groundwater.
You
Well,
could always, if you, one idea is to do something like we did at, next to the baseball fields, where they added the hammock park. Something like that,
Yeah,
where it's very little cost. And you add poles that people can lounge around and you can add, hammock steps.
Those two, yeah.
Yeah.
In Hollow.
so this is their website, and obviously, this isn't like for sure, hey, we would pick this company. But see, this is all wood that's had all the bark removed and then it's bolted together. And just this company in this kind of style, and Sarah knows so much about this that it's a good resource for this group, is just to find these natural playgrounds. Cause there's just so many fun ideas, and
But we can't make these on our own, right, John? I mean.
No.
we had-
everything we put in there has to be certified.
So, I mean, even if we did something like Spencer Stevens or Ryan Udell, these guys put together these things like that, we couldn't do that.
There's a certification process that just has to be done.
But are they coming, so we would have to order something like that from Germany?
it's just an idea. It's not, we wouldn't have to be set on this
They're
company.
the
This is,
yeah.
this is just a good example of something that
Like
would probably be
SS.
compatible with the park.
Yeah, but see, like this might be, this would, I wish it would show up a little. Oh, here we go. I'll just shrink the page. But this is the kind of stuff that it's traditional playground-ish, but includes components and features that are kind of kids would it'd become a destination park.
Mhm.
Now, when we do these kind of playgrounds and slides and stuff, we usually wear the summertime with slides.
Right.
And, I mean-
When you have to have trees to shade them,
Yeah,
or tarps you can put over the sun.
Or
We're gonna
staff
have
will
to-
spray it
you're
down
gonna
every
have to
hour.
have a plastic slide,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be bright orange. I guess that's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
It can be gray or it can be tan.
Some parents will stop and think of it.
There you go.
Slide. Ow.
All right, just to keep moving, splash pad. So what about a splash pad? We've talked about this a little bit as a small group, John, Blake and myself, but what are the general thoughts right now about a splash pad?
Costly.
I think that, I've actually talked to Riverdale Park, this about 5 years ago. And I asked him the cost of the splash pad. And it's by far their biggest expense, mostly in chemicals. So it uses about 5 times more chemicals than a regular pool per square foot.
Really?
So, because they have to reuse the same cycle of water,
Mhm.
and it recycles. So instead of putting, let's say, 10 pounds per, 100 gallons or something like that, it would be more like 5 times the concentration.
Just for.
Kind of like 5 times the cost
Yeah.
of chemicals.
And I think like 10 years ago, I think they said Riverdale splash pad was something like $20,000 or $30,000 just in upkeep every single year. So, they do it because they have the money and they can support it.
Take it out now,
But I think but they said it was the most costly thing that they had,
Yeah.
per square foot, per
Well,
anything.
One thing that we experienced in the last couple of years, just with the aquatic center, is chlorine has been going up like much higher than just our normal inflation. It's been like more of a 30-40% type of inflation. So that's obviously strongly concerning. And with our drought situation ever evolving, you know, we might install it in a good water year and then the next year it's, so. It is, we might feel comfortable removing that from the plan altogether, it sounds like.
Well,
Unless
I can
there's,
say for right now, don't worry, you're gonna remove it at some future day. The work to put it on and that's.
okay, so we're gonna have a tentative remove on that one. Number 11 was splash pad control structure with restroom.
So it's there.
That's the pump house.
Yeah, so that's a pump house to it, so we can remove that for now. 12 is memorial plaque.
That's still over here,
Okay,
right there.
do you remember what type of, like memorial to the Indian people or what type of?
Indigenous people and early settlers, those two.
Okay.
There's 1, 2, there's 3 of them somewhere, there's a third.
Okay, okay, I think that's a go. Trees, do we want trees in the park? Or should we nix all the trees? Hey, trees are expensive, but I think that's a yes.
Mhm.
Oh, this one's kind of sad, the Campbell barn structure. And you gotta be careful because
Don't
the
call
family
it a
doesn't
barn.
want it to be called a barn, it's a packing shed.
Right, to impact.
What,
Gotta be careful about that.
whatever happened to that?
That's up in
They disassembled it and took it up to Cache County somewhere.
Minden.
And apparently, I hate
Went
reassembled.
to Minden.
It went to their family ground.
Right.
We
Yeah.
went and measured it and there wasn't, it was too small for anything useful inside as far as gathering space. And so we took a bunch of measurements and we could recreate it just a little bigger and make it usable. Or I think Blake has talked about the Sagebrush Academy as a potential recreation replacement.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways,
Just to take that barn down was costly, I'm sure.
I think it was
$80,000.
80 grand.
Just 80,000 to disassemble and right?
Reassemble,
Put it
yeah.
together.
Whether they can talk to me about it with the city, you'll have to talk to the city. Cause we've got Minden willing to buy it, but I send it to Minden.
Yeah. Number 15, dog park.
That's already.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny, I didn't realize, okay, we're good there. 16, raised 6-foot broad walk bridge and railing, which is right here, and I think if we had all the money in the world, for sure, we're all for that, that would be really cool, so, but I really think we keep it on the plan.
Can I ask about 15 again,
The dog
the
park?
dog park?
Yes,
So. So one of the things that the citizens brought up from our last survey, the first survey, not the one that you guys did, was that like 20% of people brought up the dog park and wanted a different location. And it was always the city's intention to that not to be the permanent thing. And I asked Tiffany about why it was there and she's like, it was already there, so we just put it on there, you know.
It was a fenced piece of ground.
It was a fenced piece of ground, so, but the question is, like, if the city needs a dog park, do we think that it fits in either the aesthetic, or do we want it to go somewhere else, I guess?
Right now, Barker family to a royal 50, put it in there.
There you go.
Not saying it's not
No, no, no.
wrong. it's
Yeah.
Family, but it's a city's choice.
I don't really have a strong opinion on it. And- and
Dog parks are-
Probably doesn't help that I'm not a dog person, but
It's not, it's dog park. This right here, once it sits in the catch basin, which makes a barn.
oh yeah, it's sometimes it's unusable for that reason,
Well,
yeah.
I've seen dog parks for people that take care of things, they're not cleaning up and they get doing, get worn out and. And. When they came up on the trail, they turned into advanced people.
I don't think, unless John can correct me, I don't think we've had a ton of people come to that application for a dog park.
Oh, yeah.
We,
A lot of people.
the dog,
I remember.
I have gotten some, and we don't pass everything on, but it obviously. As a dog person, it's not an ideal park because there's a few components you could add to make it better. But when it fills up with water in the spring, that's also when a lot of people want their dogs out and running around. And
Even right now, it's not that great.
Dogs swam.
So,
They did. I was down there one day and
Swimming park.
a dog ran around, it went up the storm pipe.
That's pretty ugly.
And we fixed that since then, but I thought I was gonna have to go in after this dog because the owner was freaking out.
But at this point, we're not considering
okay,
putting another one within the confines of this park, right?
I don't think so. And have we even had any conversations about a dog park officially anywhere? John?
I remember we did one time.
We've been looking at potential locations. They typically do better on flat ground, and so that kind of leans towards the south end of the city.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
trying to find the land to do it on.
Yep.
It sounds like we're safe to take it off of the list and recognizing that it's definitely not ideal state for the city right now.
Right
And keep
now,
it in-
first of all, that,
yeah,
right now, that's not even part of the park.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
know,
why
yeah.
yeah, it's
not
funny
part
that
of
it
the
made it
park.
on there and because you're like, yeah, it's right here. I'm like, what? But I understand why they did it, just because yeah.
Just a
it
minute.
was in the aerial, so they just did it.
It's identifiable.
Walking bridge and railing, we're good with that. 17, tree house structure.
That's just right there.
Oh, okay, so that's kind of in the middle of the bridge and it's kind of like an expanded area.
The one question for for this group may be that would require a foundation in the hollow. And so we'd wanna, if we're heading down that path, we'd wanna just talk about how that impacts the hollow and how we can do it sensitively to the area. Cause you could do a suspension bridge across the whole thing and not have a treehouse in the middle, but
The treehouse, I remember like Tiffany was the one that had the treehouse idea, if I remember. She liked that because people could stop there and just look around and just enjoy it. That way it gets them out of the way of people walking across. Or if they're ADA, they can pull a wheelchair off to the side and
Yeah.
still relax. I think that was the reasoning behind it.
and with that in mind, there may be some options to look at a bridge design where in the center it has a platform that would accommodate that.
And see, to me, that'd be better. Personally, that'd be better. Because on this, you gotta actually have a roof over it.
Yeah, and it might increase it obviously would increase the cost of the bridge, but I think it's accomplishable. It's just pedestrian bids can get expensive.
One of my good friends, actually, his family puts those kinds of things in. He builds those things.
I think we
And they-
should rule it out.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
I-
okay with that.
I mean, you go to Yellowstone and walk around the pool, they have places those pull out a bit further,
Mhm.
and it's really good to have.
So 18 was easy ropes course, we're striking that out.
Like that.
19, sand volleyball, we don't want a kitty litter play, so we're striking that out.
Bring your pet cat
Number 20 is pickleball courts.
right here.
Yeah, didn't we have pickleball courts? Oh, have they always been on that north side?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes,
Yeah,
the 501c3 was also recommending potentially on the island as well.
They have.
Could you just put more courts and do away with 19 now?
Nineteen
If it's
is
sand, because that's the sand volleyball, right?
Right.
19.
There was a version that actually showed 6 or 8 pickleball courts where 20 and 19 are,
correct.
but it didn't end up on the final version for.
And you could take 19 out and expand, instead of just 2 pickleball courts, make it 4.
so we feel
And they
pretty,
really did get used.
confident about pickleball courts as a potential amenity, right?
Yeah, and I think we talked about it at the first meeting, and we brought up the question, does it fit in with the park? And I think like, we went back to the very first, the presentation of this. And the purpose of the pickleball courts weren't to be like culturally sensitive, it was to bring people into the parks.
We
So,
have, we
Which
all.
I think is something that is really important too, because if you can have plaques and you can have a learning thing, but people need to go be in the park too.
We had discussion on that, but people turn those into, place to have a competition game, people could, and how to avoid having that happen.
Yeah.
Cause I think the pickleball courts would be really well used, and very valuable.
The next couple are, oh, and by the way, I'm excited about our pickleball courts in Loman View. So if you guys haven't been down there, drive down to Loman View, Park. There's 4 courts that are pretty close to completion.
They're awesome.
Yeah. Number 21 and 22, Boweries. So that's just saying generally, we want to have Boweries interspersed throughout dispersed throughout the park.
Could be the size of it.
Yeah, the medium, large. Changing room, what's a changing room?
That'd be over here with the splash pad.
Okay, that would have been if you came to the splash pad and needed to get your kid in a swimsuit type of thing. Okay.
So they would cross that out.
Yeah, but that'd be really weird to have a changing room, but no purpose. Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't even think of that. Okay, so sod with sprinklers and timer, number 24. But I don't know if that's just, is that saying, that's
That's just the
general,
grass.
that's just general,
Stuff.
Okay,
That will be
I mean-
looked at later,
we gotta think of that later.
yeah.
25 native plantings, xeriscaping, we already talked about that a lot in the island section right here.
There's other places you consider like down through here.
Yeah, so I don't think we need to cover that, but number 26, community garden storage shed.
That's, that's,
That was 32, this one says 26.
Oh, this is community garden right here.
Oh, yeah, that's a community garden, yeah.
Okay, I remember that. And Peggy's out at the community garden.
I
That one from
think,
up
I think
here.
it's a good spot.
Yeah,
for it,
Originally,
honestly.
it's gonna be up here, it's blocking
Yeah.
pathways, because
Yeah.
Reba State's botany department wanted to come help
Yeah.
support it.
I think having, now that we don't have the community garden, I think we need to put it in. somewhere.
Prioritize it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've left about 5,000 waste meals. At Weaver State Spotting Department.
Really, they'd like to use it sort of for their own classroom activities, people that bring their kids, students.
Well, I was hoping to get their support to help us with like this. Because my vision up here, I don't know where the Sagebrush Academy of Art is gonna be, is kind of like an extension of the Ogden Botanical Center.
Which is neat.
And I can't get the bond department to come back.
It's because, they keep graduating and moving on and, you know.
That's Peggy.
I don't
I
know.
can't get a secretary up there,
Yeah,
I can't
not-
get a professor.
There's gotta be someone up there.
Well,
Did you
Peggy
ever
at
knock on their
one
door?
time-
I've never stopped there, but I probably.
Yeah, he at one time had contacts up there, I don't know if she still has them or not.
Number 28, storm drain utility work. That just sounds like something that's necessary somewhere. 28,
I don't know where it's at.
storm drain, do you know where that is?
Negotiable.
I don't think I think it's a non-negotiable, but it's there in the plan somewhere. 29 is ADA playground with rubber tile surface.
That's your.
That would be awesome. Cause we don't have we just barely got that kind of all abilities park on
I
1050.
think anytime you put a playground wherever it's safe, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, so
No,
I
I
like
think
that.
we've proven that we can't put tiles down, but the surface doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, because we
So-
had issues with that on 1050. They were actually those rubber tiles, right?
They didn't hold real well.
Yeah. 30 basketball courts, that's probably off, or is that still maybe a thing?
Is basketball a thing?
Cause
So-
well,
It's currently shown up here,
Yeah.
not meant to be like an organized, but just a recreational spot for kids to bounce a ball and shoot it through.
I'm not sure how much basketball is more. I don't play anymore, so I don't pay attention.
How much use does do the ones at,
So, when I-
North Ogden
when I
Park
go by
use?
North Ogden Park, it seems reasonably used in the spring and summer by people playing basketball. But I also have seen it not being used a lot too, you know, it's so, I feel like it's one of those things that if we added it as an amenity in Barker Park. I don't think we can guarantee that it's gonna get all kinds of use, I don't know, it seems,
Unless, I guess maybe this would be a question for the recreation person.
yeah,
So like, if it's needed by recreation,
get their perspective.
like, because they need basketball teams, I don't know.
But their season is typically winter,
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
and so for practices, it would be,
Summer league.
yeah.
I will take that to Becca, or who should I talk to just to get their
I think it'd be,
perspective?
you could talk to Jamie, Tyler and Becca and just say, how much is it being used?
I just know your big cities like New York, Chicago, they're supposed to be used a lot.
I think it's more of a use case than, I don't feel like,
Well,
I don't have any feelings either way.
Well, we're a little different here, because little big cities like that, that's where the kids go, they
Yeah.
have nowhere else to go.
Yeah, that's
What do
true.
we have around here to go to, Black Mountain biking, hiking, holy cow.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards it's probably not needed, but we'll see what, staff recommendation comes in. Cause they might say, hey, you know, we're up there all the time and people have a hard time getting to court. Maybe it will surprise me.
Mhm.
31 Hollow Trail, well, that's just the trail. We're,
Follow.
no question there. We plan on kind of keeping that up and having it special like it is now. 32 Park Storage Building, that's down here by Chicken Coop.
That's the parks department to decide.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of like an eventual necessity, that there's a building to store park equipment that's always used.
That's where we put it there, so you could store it, and
Yeah.
not have to go clean over somewhere else to get it.
Sculpture Gardens, 33. Oh, that looks way cool. That kind of reminds me, it kind of is like, the Botanical Center on, by the Ogden Parkway. It kind of reminds me of that.
Like Black Bicycle, sit and do those sculptures for free. I doubt that.
Well, the only one that we need to be concerned with there is a statue of John Call.
Yeah.
And we do need to be concerned if anyone wants to put one of
We
those in
can
the
walk
park.
around and admire it,
Well,
just knows like Abraham.
And I think, if I remember right from the discussions, one of the concepts that was brought was that the center place where these things would be attached would be permanent, but the sculptures might come in as showcase pieces by students from Weaver State or others, so that it could be an art facility that displays these, because I mean, outdoor sculptures are extremely expensive. Like when they're extremely expensive.
I think John was right, think about that set up so it'd be an art place, you could actually have a weekend art show. There was some outdoor art there. Mhm.
See about getting one of those giant whales like is down in Salt Lake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coming up.
The avenues or that's
Or
in that.
John hot dog mobile, fire driving around.
I think it's a good use of space.
It's
I
cool. It looks
I
cool.
think if you do it well, I think it's good. It's something that we don't have here. Like, do you know of any other formal gardens in Weaver County? I don't
The-
know of any other.
The
formal gardens.
closest is those botanical gardens that are off the trail
Pretty close, yeah.
on the. But they're not like, when you go to Vancouver and go to
Yeah.
Botanical Gardens, like,
Yeah.
right?
I
All right.
think this park can open last week, that's what it was like, the whole park was spiraled like that.
Yeah.
Which is-
I got dizzy looking at it.
All right, I feel like that's a good start. So thanks for everyone's thoughts and feedback on that part of things. And then last but not least, just in case we didn't cover any thoughts or questions from each of the committee members. So does anyone have any last parting thoughts?
No, except what's your role in the city? You're talking like you're over the Parks and Recreation.
Oh, no.
Oh,
So,
okay, I just wanna make sure.
I'm the head of the Parks and Trails Committee,
Oh, okay.
which is the community run one.
Okay.
But I've been, I have worked closely with the Parks Department in the last 6 years. And I have a different entity called Beaver County
Oh,
Playgrounds.
now a place
So-
that actually didn't mix up or how this fits in there. Now I understand.
Yes, so I'm your
I like
community
this.
liaison.
This also helped us
And-
become more friendly to people that are.
Well, and remember, this group is kind of made up of like representatives from the Barker family to provide some feedback, representatives from Parks and Trails Committee to provide feedback, representative from 501c3 and the council. And the idea is that each individual goes out to their groups and says, hey, here's like, what do you think? And then brings ideas back. And so you're kind of the carrier pigeon? Is that the right word? That each of you are kind of going out and back and bringing information to the group, especially as we get past this initial kind of 30,000 foot presentation to council and we start dialing into what, do we really want basketball courts or how many pickleball courts and all those kinds of things?
Maybe the back 1.74, and 2 of them you don't, I just cut it down to 1.
Yeah,
And pickleball-
just maybe not as grand as was originally planned.
Pickleball is so popular right now, you can take out the sandball thing and put another set of pickleball courts in, but you just don't know.
Part of me wonders if pickleball will go the way of tennis though, because tennis used to be really popular.
The one time. it
You
did.
know,
Mhm.
it just really
Now
kind
those
of
courts
makes me
are-
wonder if someday all the pickleball courts will go obsolete in a way.
That's because McEnroe's gone and all the youngins
Yeah.
swearing at the ups and.
Yeah, those are the days.
That used to be fun to
So what
watch.
do you
yeah.
want to the next meeting, what do you want to like focus in on?
I need your suggestions, because I want this to be productive and a useful, I feel like this meeting has been productive, I feel good about it. But the next one, it's like my worst fear, like I don't wanna get to a meeting and have it not feel productive, so I'm open to suggestions.
If you want, we can next meeting start where we want to put things at.
On the island,
Like, I don't make one work from the island first, you get where that's at. I don't know if you can put that plan separate from the rest of the park. Can you do that?
So we could bring you a plan like this.
Oh, that.
Let's see if I'm gonna move it into the screen,
Well,
so,
we did this.
those watching at home.
We have 6 of these things all over.
but we could have, and then we could do cutouts, or we could even just write on it and say, hey. You know, what we really like, we like where these components are, but. You know, if we're taking the basketball courts out, then let's do this here instead, or. One other valid thing that this group can do is say. We're not putting in the splash pad, but we're leaving that space open for something that may come in the future.
Maybe for frisbee playing.
Well, yeah, right now, it'll be buffalo grass and people can play on it, but someday. A new thing might come in, a new pickleball, and we say, now we have the space for it because we didn't use every square inch of the park.
Now, John, when we did this originally. Tiffany ran off 6 of these, right? And we had sticky notes. We broke those 6 different groups, and why we're able to do that, because we just wanted the community doing there. We had people in the community there, oh my gosh, a lot of people who all got around, oh my, yeah, it was unreal.
Well,
And it worked really neat, because then we got each map done, we all started looking around each other's maps and moving things around, and here we ended up.
well, and that's why I think we're trying to meld all the things together, because we don't want to ignore that all the work that went into that. And with these components that you just went through, I think you've got a good, like, do we want to move this component? Or is there something on the list of 30 whatever items that we forgot that now is relevant that should be added? And so I think there's a lot of, we're down to moving the little pieces around the play board. Cause we don't want to scratch everything and start over again, because that's the purpose of this group, is it seemed like we were starting to head there with the 2 sides, and people are gonna say, well, let's just clear the board and start over. And I think we're so close, it's just a matter of getting us across the finish line.
So I like that you bring that there, if they stick a notes or something, we can write on, move these things around where we want them. And then with Blake here, what they have in mind with their picture, we can come up with something fairly quick. And it comes down to the biggest issue, parking.
Well, and maybe some of this is gonna be, we may have to do some of this based on what we get back from the engineering and the surveying.
So it'd be nice, the city engineer was here for cost. What they could do, what's gonna be, with the engineering problems going involved. You get their input. But some of this stuff, engineering is no big deal, some of it's, well, you know.
The nice thing is the most complicated components are the things that we've talked about eliminating, or you've talked about. And so, but we can give you some good estimates. A good example is a pedestrian bridge. It's $80,000 plus, depending if how long it is. But a playground, we know, for a small one, it's 120. For a normal size one, it's 150 to 200. For a signature piece, it's 4, 3, 4.
354.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice, but also you have to have the cost of the galleries. What they're going to cost, bathroom, what, 30,000 just for one or something like that?
When we did the trailhead bathroom, they're pre-built and we brought it in and they look good. But it was 70 grand for the 2.
Now, can we, on things like bathrooms, John, cause like, I mean, when we did Cherry Days last year. We've got lists of volunteers of people who said, oh yeah, I'm a plumber, I can come help whatever you guys need.
So as long as they're certified,
Certified.
we can get their help to do stuff.
As long as they're across the board.
Yeah, so they have,
Electrician.
it just can't be like me as I do electrical work at my house. I can't do it at the city, for example. Yeah.
It works, that's all I can tell you.
So,
Cool, well, and honestly, think about it in the next couple of weeks and call me or send me a text if you have an idea, but I like the idea of maybe we will put together a bunch of boards and do sticky notes at the next one. That definitely sounds like a great idea.
I think we can move stuff in here really quick.
Yeah,
I don't think it'd be that hard to do it.
yeah,
I think we all have an idea we're all aware, and I think I'm open to movement, I can move.
yeah.
Have you reached out to the Jones and Associates who have the architectural drawings of this?
We have the files.
You have the file?
Yeah. And we still work with them. So like they're one of our contract engineers. And so anything that we don't have, we can still get.
They've been doing this, the actual,
They didn't do the survey.
they didn't do the survey.
They do have an in-house surveyor, but they don't use him for stuff like we needed. So
That much with surveyors
At
out
the
there
next
working.
meeting, can you
Yeah.
get the architectural drawings that they did, like, I know they did
You guys do
the
it.
bridge, like those ones?
Yeah.
I think, didn't they do like a,
They're nice guys.
one like on the specific components?
I think there might be one for most of the components that says, hey, here's a conceptual like high adventure playground and things like that.
Can we get those
Mhm.
printed out for the
Yeah.
next meeting?
We'll try and run everything so JD can email Eric and just say, hey, email both of us because I might find them. I might have them too.
Put out a city
Yeah.
website.
I don't send you guys.
I think that would be helpful to see like what, when we say a bridge, like what did the architect show the bridge?
Yeah,
as,
cause I
you
don't
know?
remember ever seeing it and I'm sure it's
Oh,
been out there.
yes. I don't know if we ever had the.
Oh,
bridge
we- that's-
architecture done.
That's what they did.
Did they?
So
Did
he was
they
saying
do
that they have that, the drawing.
Yeah, we should have access to any drawing that they put together.
Oh, okay.
And they also don't delete stuff. So if they didn't give it to us, then it's there. Actually,
I'd like to see that too.
Cool.
I see, that's a bridge goes right, that goes right across where the flume used to go across.
Yeah, we can't touch,
So there's cement structures in there already.
we can't be touched.
No, if we don't get it, that's just for it. I think that, it's just sit on.
I think so.
Yeah, it's been good. So I'm good with wrapping up and then, I think we have a little bit of an idea of what we wanna do now, and thanks for bringing up the idea of actually looking at the engineering rendering, like bridge stuff, that'd be really cool. So, and then if you have any ideas, call me or text me in the next couple of weeks before it's time to put the next agenda together.
Okay.
With that, we will ask for, a motion to adjourn,
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
and I second that, and I will cut.